Okay, when you put the timing chain on the crankshaft, first sprocket is the big one with plastic inside, and there's an arrow on the side. This arrow needs to be flush with the left side of the cylinder head, so 90 degrees. But before you gonna fiddle with the arrow, you need to make sure you have all the tools you need for the VANOS and for the timing. Actually, first tool is a camshaft locking tool. You need to lock two camshafts so they cannot move at all. Make sure this is tight. It sits on the cylinder head, and then you can proceed with another tool, which is crankshaft locking tool, which is that pin. But we have a problem here because we don't have a flywheel. And there's a hole for it, which goes through here and locks the flywheel. But the flywheel we have to take off because otherwise the engine won't be on the stand. So what you need to do, you need to have your crankcase. I'm not doing this with the crankcase because I want to show you more bits inside, but when you're doing this with your crankcase, I'm gonna show you in the minute what you need to do if you don't have a flywheel on the back. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna have your crankcase cover on the first place anyway. I just did it to show you where's the mark. That's the mark on the crankcase cover. That's the mark on the crank pulley. So you need to make sure these are lined up. So that's gonna be a top dead center, and then when you do top dead center, you can align this arrow with this edge. So as you can see, I got my arrow flushed with the cylinder head. So now what you're gonna do, you're gonna install 3 of these stop bolts. You can't put them wrong way because they are not symmetrical. That round thing needs to be out, facing out. And be careful not to drop anything inside. The best thing you can do is put some paper towels in here. So next thing you want to do is install your secondary chain tensioner. I said before you have to do all these 4 torques, but no, you have to do 2 on the side, and these 2 holding the tensioner. So these 2 on the side first, and later these 2. Excuse me about that. But now I'm gonna remove this one because it's holding the lower timing case, because I wanted to show you how it looks like from inside, so I'm gonna remove it. And now what you need to do is install the secondary timing tensioner. It's 4 bolts. Not too tight. It's not gonna fly away. Then you can install the tensioner and lock it with a special pin, which is included in the kit with VANOS jig. And now we can install more sprockets and secondary timing chain. To do that, you need one of the jigs from the VANOS tool, which can help you stretch and match the teeth on the sprockets. So that's how it you see, you can't actually adjust it now, so you need to go back, and now it's ready. So what you do, you need to take off the setup from the jig and put it on the camshafts. Next, timing wheel, we can call it. It's gonna be this one. And then you're ready. Secondary timing chain. It's gonna be fiddly, but each of the camshafts have a wider gap in some point. This gap must be close to the gap on the sprocket. So if it's not, you need to rotate them so they can fit, otherwise you're not going to be able to insert these splines. So they are close, so you will be able to do it. If not, you need to figure out how they're gonna go, and then you can insert them. So as you can see, I have a good spot, and it's in. One is in. Okay, there's another one. Okay, so I installed one of the tension plates, which is on the intake side. It says front, and 3 nuts. Now 3 Torx bolts. Not too tight, just finger tight, because that's gonna be torqued down later when you're gonna set up the timing. And then spring plate. and timing wheel with the arrow facing the same cylinder position, that I mean that edge of the cylinder head, same as the first wheel we did. Okay, so now I have a manual with me. I print out from internet, step by step how to do timing adjustment or camshaft adjustment, they say. You can print this out. I'm gonna give you a link for that. But this is how to adjust it when the VANOS and everything is on the cylinder head, so it doesn't show step by step how to put all the sprockets and bolts and everything. Two lobes, intake and exhaust, facing each other. So that's what we have here, if you can see. Then lock the crankshaft with the flywheel. We don't have a flywheel, however we set top dead center with a crankshaft pulley. Now unscrew the studs behind, well, on the end of the cylinder head. That's what I did before, and I also installed the camshaft locking tool. Press down the secondary chain tensioner, cylinder for chain tensioner piston. Remove the cylinder for chain tensioner piston. That's what I did, and I insert already a tool from the VANOS kit. It's shown here. We did this. It says release screws. We didn't release them. We didn't tighten them because I was putting back VANOS from scratch. Release nuts. Pull out the
the splines are out.
Okay, preload the tensioner rail with special tool, adjusting screw with special tool. Now, very important, remove the gasket, or which if you haven't done it before. So no gasket if you're doing jig. Caution, fit special tool. That's the jig. That's the jig. That's what you're gonna do now. Okay, the jig is on, and screws. Very important thing. When you're tightening this down, you can't have any gap between the splines and the tool. If you have a gap after tightening down, you can't proceed further. You have to go back. You have to pull the splines back so they touching flush with the tool. It doesn't have to be very tight because you're gonna feel straight away resistance. You can finish with a spanner or socket if you like. Remember, no gasket between. When you have your jig on and it's secured, you can pull out the pin. And now, very important thing, I'm gonna show you. That's why I didn't put the the timing cover. If you can see, there's a slack on the chain, and the tool is here. We don't have a special tool, which is very hard to find. If you find one, it's very expensive for the job. BMW says they need they need 0.7 Newton meter. That's actually nothing. That's nothing. I was trying this few times on my M54 and works good. What you need to do is just use your finger. If you rotate this by finger, you can see the slack is going off. So what's gonna happen, we don't have a tension in here, it's like preload tension. So when I turn this by hand, the slack goes away. So guys, my recommendation is just use your fingers, finger tight. As you can see, there's no slack, there's movement. That tensioner, that chain can't be sorry about that, can't be like too tight, because if you do it this by spanner, by ratchet, you're gonna create big tension on these guide rails, which is gonna create probably more wear, and that's not good. 0.07 Newton meter is not a lot. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna take it off again. You're gonna see you have a big slack, finger tight, goes back, that's it. You have a tension in here. The camshafts are locked. We have a top dead center. According to the you're gonna have a crank pulley in here anyway. You're gonna see if something gonna happen, if that crank pulley gonna move, you can stop, go back, adjust it again. That's how I did my M54. No problem with that. Computer showing each angle is fine. That's what you're gonna do. And now you need to tight everything. We're gonna set this torque wrench for 10. And now that's why you have these windows over here. They are for tightening the nuts. Same thing, 10 Newton meters. E86. They are the same, so don't worry if you mix them up. So now your timing is set. Now you can remove the tension tool and you can install the tensioner itself. If you feel it's faulty, if it's compressed too much, you have to replace it with new one. This requires 17 Newton meters. You just need to tighten this quite good. And now you can remove the VANOS jig. You can double check if these don't have a gap. If they have a gap, you have to go back. Also, you can remove the timing locking tool and insert back the bolts you removed before. They are needed for the valve cover. And also after everything, remember you have a locking tool in the crankshaft. After you remove that, you just check if everything works. Remember, this block was honed, so it have a resistance. Slowly rotate everything if it's working. If you do one revolution, that's enough. You can do 2 revolutions. That means everything is fine. So after that, you can install a new gasket and put back the VANOS unit. When your VANOS is on, secured with nuts, and now these 2 bolts anti-clockwise to connect actually pistons of the VANOS to the camshafts. These 2 bolts not too tight. There's no I think specific torque for that, they just have a stop on the end, so if you're gonna feel resistance, that's it, they're not gonna go any further. So when you finish with the bolts, now you need to install 2 caps. 2 caps where we did them before with the VANOS seals. And then finish with nut caps. When your VANOS is on, you can do one more thing. Your kit should be supplied with this special adapter for this pressure line, which normally is fitted with oil, but you can test the VANOS with compressed air. Okay guys, so after you install the VANOS and you tested it and it's working fine, you crank the crankshaft, everything rotating, there's no stops, nothing stops, everything's running smooth. You can start putting back your engine together. I'm not gonna be showing that because there's no point. There's many easy things you did probably before. When you remove all of them, just reverse process. I didn't install the cover to show you how much tension to put. This engine is just looking terrible and I'm not investing any money, so future videos, I'm gonna do future videos about how engine works, some things how to diagnose, math, auto sensors, whole thing about air fuel mixture, what else, some things about power steering. I have gearbox to disassemble to put it on pieces. There's many things to do, so thanks for watching.